recording.
Good to go, Susan.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for that. Good afternoon and welcome to the monthly Home and Community Care Block Grant Advisory Committee meeting for July. I'm sorry.
Why?
I'm rushing things. February 28th. It's the leap year. That's what did it to me.
But if it was July, we'd be magically finished with all of our work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have Suzanne
Hey.
and we have Allison. So I think we're only missing Zach and Eileen, if I'm correct.
I'm here. Can you all hear me?
Zach, yes.
Mhm.
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
I am on the phone for just a few seconds. I am running over to my mom's house to let my brother in because he forgot his key.
Excellent. So
I will be back on in just a moment.
Excellent. So before we have our speaker, we have a couple of housekeeping items on our agenda, which is first to approve the agenda and then approve the meeting minutes from last month. So do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Any objections? All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, our meeting minutes are approved. Okay, Billy, I'm going to turn this over to you to introduce our speaker.
You're mute, Billy. I know. I just realized. Thank you. The speaker for today is the Executive Director of Blue Ridge Pride Center, Amy Upham, and she's going to talk about the Blue Ridge Pride Generation Plus program.
Thanks so much, Billy. Hey, everyone. I'm going to share my screen here. Let's see here. And I'm sorry I'm off camera. I'm not feeling the best today. All right. So Blue Ridge Pride, if for those of you who don't know, is a nonprofit that serves the LGBTQIA+ community. And we do this in a variety of ways. Of course, everybody knows about the festival, but we also have a few different programs, and this is one of them, Generation Plus. So we've run this program for about 2 years. Previously, there were several groups that addressed the needs of LGBTQ elders in Western North Carolina. You may have heard the WNC Elder Advocates. Of course, Land of Sky's been involved. There's another group called Sister Care. And then there's some meetup groups that still exist today, like Stella's Place and Asheville Primetimers. So for us to sort of, implement Gen Plus, we have a committee that advises us. And on that committee, Land of Sky, Council on Aging, Buncombe County Aging Services, AARP, Meals on Wheels, and we've got a representative from Givens, their LGBTQ group, and the Asheville Primetimers. We're actually looking to expand that. So if anybody's interested or know anybody who's interested, that would be great. So that's sort of an overview. And if anybody has any questions at the end, I forgot to mention, please let me know. So why is it important that we serve LGBTQ plus elders in sort of a specific way? Because of course, all elders are important to serve. And you'll see here I use LGBTQ plus and LGBT. The reason for that in this slide is because different research has different parameters. But we, our research indicates that LGBTQ plus elders make up somewhere between 4,000 and 8,000 Buncombe County residents. 4,000 is the absolute minimum. That's indicative of the national average. But as y'all probably know, Buncombe County and Asheville in particular is a destination place for LGBTQ plus people. And actually just last year was named as one of 8 retirement communities and retirement destinations for the LGBTQ community by US News and World Report. So we think it's more like double the average. And across the country, LGBTQ plus elders are expected to double by the year 2030. So one, there's a lot of them. We need to serve them because there's a lot of them. But also there's been some specific issues that they face besides the obvious, potential discrimination and whatnot. They are twice as likely to be living alone than other elders. So the stat for other elders is 26%. So it's over 50% of our folks are living alone. About a third, and this actually, when I took this job, it was really floored me, some of the things that I learned. But one of the things I learned is there's a significant portion, about a third, of elders who report worrying that they will have to recloset themselves once in congregate care. There's actually a movie out there called Gen Silent that's about this phenomenon that we're going to try to bring in for a screening this coming year. Elders are at an increased risk of dementia if they are LGBTQ+. This is something that our partners at the University of Tennessee RISE Registry are studying. It's also something on the radar of the NC Brain Health group. When I've spoken with these folks informally, they've told me that they're studying the link between isolation and this increased risk of dementia. And then a third of LGBT elders live at or below the federal poverty level. And then lastly, and this just goes across the lifespan, but of course it worsens in age, but LGBTQ plus individuals have higher rates of things like heart disease, lung disease, because we have the highest rate of smoking of any demographic, depression, alcoholism. Those are just some examples, but you may or may not have heard of the ACEs, which is adverse childhood experiences. And one of the things that we consider an ACE is discrimination. So you may have heard that talked about in relationship to racism. The same thing goes for homophobia and transphobia. And of course, things like isolation, all can increase those physical and mental health conditions. So our solutions, given all that information, and what we're hearing also just from our elders in the community, is that, we really needed to work to reduce social isolation and educate the community about our elders. So we have a monthly gathering called Connections, and we do all sorts of things. Last year, we did a couple hikes, a movie. Some of the elders really like to go out to the bar. We did an ice cream day. We did a craft day at Mountain Care. So they help to choose their activities via the committee. We also are gearing up for the first time to provide one-on-one social visits via trained volunteers to those who are isolated. So this is something that Sister Care actually used to do in the lesbian community and trans female community. And they weren't a nonprofit. They didn't have the resources to keep it going, but I think it's a brilliant idea. And when we've floated it by our elders, that's sort of the number one thing that they would like us to do. So that's going to be rolling out this year with a new staff that's actually on the meeting right now. Luna has joined us. So, we're also want to facilitate gatherings at other community events. We don't just want to carve out special things for our folks. We really want to work on integration. And there's plenty of opportunities that even Blue Ridge Pride has that aren't necessarily Gen Plus events, but where we can have almost like a meetup type thing where one of our committee members can meet people at these events and go as a group, essentially. We also have a large winter party in June, Stonewall Picnic, every year. So that's some of the ways that we're reducing social isolation. For education, this certainly is an education moment, but we have an official presentation called Elder Care with Pride that goes into some basics, as well as the history of what some of the folks in long-term care might have gone through, might have lived through. Some even lived, were born at a time when Hitler was still in power, and that was very impactful to the LGBTQ community. So, there's a lot, including Stonewall and, yeah, all sorts of things that our folks have lived through, that they're just beacons of history and herstory and experience. It also talks about CMS regulations and how that applies to LGBTQ people, for example, in partner visitation. We also sometimes bring in, it's called Thrive. We will bring in an educational opportunity specifically for our members. So last year we did a living will presentation. We had somebody come in and do Tai Chi. We did nutrition. We're still hammering out what we're going to do this year, but those are always exciting for folks. And then lastly, we have our oral history project, which many of the people interviewed through that are over 60. And so, that's a place, if you look on our website, you can look under our programs and see lots of interviews with elders. And we want to really start to merge that with, I know AARP has a program called Rainbow, Rainbow Interviews or Rainbow Inspirations, that's what it's called, sorry. And so, how can we sort of get that word out there? And lastly, by doing all of this and also some of our more public presence, things like Elder Abuse Awareness Month and Older Americans Awareness Month, we hope to advocate for the community, be a voice for this group. I think I know it's a group because I'm an LGBTQ person, and I know it's a group that is invisible. And even in the elder community, I think these issues that they're facing are people don't know about. I didn't know about. So like I said, we did hire our first full-time staff that will be half-time on this program, which is super exciting. And so there's gonna be more developments as we increase our support for this community. You can visit our website for more information. There's a specific page on Gen Plus. And if you wanna become part of the committee or bring in our Elder Care with Pride presentation, this is Luna's email. Luna, I don't know if you wanna just say hi and introduce yourself for a second, but Luna is with us today too. So thanks for being here.
Sure. Thanks, Amy. I'm excited to be here with all of you and to, learn a little bit more about our connection with the Council on Aging. And I'm also really looking forward to taking over this program. And for half of my work that I'm going to be doing with Blue Ridge Pride, like Amy said, this need is there. It's so, there's so much need. And like Amy said, it really is invisible in a lot of ways, not just to outer communities, but also to the LGBTQ plus community. And so I'm really hoping to, bring a lot more attention to youth, to allies, and to really just, strengthen the support that we can provide for these communities. So yeah, thank you all for your support as well.
Thanks, Luna. Any questions for us?
Yes, this is Susan. And I'm wondering if you have any, I don't know, feel-good stories about one of your participants who really got a lot out of one of your programs, or they feel less isolated. Can you share something like that with us?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so the first person who comes to mind is on our committee, but her name's Jane, and she lives in Gibbons. She's actually part of their affinity group. She's 80 years old. She just spoke at our winter gathering, so I know that because she shared that with the crowd. But she has been to almost all of our socials. She helps, of course, plan some of them. And every time I've gone to one of the socials and she's there afterwards, either face-to-face or in an email, she'll say, I got so much out of that. I don't have anything like this in my life other than this group. And is just, very grateful for it. She used to be a physical therapist, and so she's highly intelligent. And one of the things that she struggles with is living in a retirement community and still, very much having an active brain and wants to go out and meet people and do things. And so I think the group gives her that outlet.
And you mentioned Gibbons. Is that Gibbons Highland Park, Gibbons Estate, or?
It's a great question. I think she's she's not in a long-term care facility. I know that. So she's in more of the retirement community setting. And to be honest, I don't know which part that is.
Okay.
But yeah.
Stephen Gibbons is
Question. Sorry, I've had my camera off because I'm eating lunch at 3:45. So I'm Melissa, and my question is, what do you do as far as you mentioned there was some risk factors for this population to have more chronic illnesses and disease, such as high ACE scores and smoking, high population of smoking. Do you do anything to try to effectively change those behaviors, or anything to do to support those adverse childhood events, like smoking cessation or something?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we are a nonprofit of 2 staff people, so we don't have big programs like that. But what I can say is that we are part of the CHIP, so the Community Health Improvement Process, and we actually just recently got a grant from Buncombe County Health Department to do a health equity survey of the LGBTQ community, and we're going to use that data. I mean, we've got the national data, but we want local data. We're going to use that to explore with our board, potentially starting some other health or mental health programming.
Awesome.
We do work with like NC Brain Health and the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services and their tobacco cessation program, just as far as like making sure that they can come to our events and do their work through us. And so a lot of how we honestly do our work now is through marketing. We market a whole bunch of stuff through our social media, and so people to take advantage of those opportunities.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, hey, Amy, this is Suzanne Booth here. How do people find you in the community?
Yeah, good question. So it's word of mouth mostly right now. We do have a Facebook page, which has, over like 1,500 people, I think. We've got a newsletter that about 200 people have subscribed to. And so we, do a lot of marketing that way. But I think we could do a better job at getting into like radio and the Mountain Express and things like that. We've actually now have, for the first time, annual contracts with those news outlets. And so our plan is at least twice this year to do something around Gen Plus. And so that, the public hears more about us.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
This is Dan. I've got a question. Do you have a wish list of, if you have additional resources, what might you do with them aside from what you're already doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yes, I mean, I think we would potentially want to get into maybe even doing advocacy on a one-on-one basis and care coordination for those who are living in long-term care that are LGBTQ plus. Again, that figure of 1/3 kind of feeling like they have to go back into the closet when they get into long-term care is scary to us. Another thing would be transportation. So we actually did just recently update our insurance so that we can transport elders to social events. But if we had unlimited resources, I would love to provide medical transportation as well. Just the things that other elders need. I think it's awesome if an LGBTQ organization can provide that to LGBTQ plus folks, because we have that cultural competency to understand, the community.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions? I appreciate y'all having me so much, and Lena.
Well, this is Susan, and it does not look like we have any other questions. We appreciate your presentation and the support you give to the county residents.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Well, you're quite welcome. And you're welcome to stay if you want, but we're kind of boring after.
I put my dog down earlier today, which is why I'm not feeling well. So I think I will leave. I'm so sorry, but thank you so much for having me. Thanks, Billy, for the invite.
Okay, well, our condolences
Yes.
for your pet.
Yes.
Sorry.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Take care.
Thanks for letting us join.
You're welcome. Okay. I heard from Greg not being able to get on to the grant website. Has anybody else had any problems getting in?
I did notice it was a bit clunky at first, but it seemed to be working okay yesterday.
Okay.
Apparently a pilot error, I guess. I don't know. I'll go back and check.
I figured it out. At first, it was a little intimidating, but I've done similar things to this for NCNA, which is the North Carolina Nurse Association, to review documents and stuff. And I have to say that this is a whole lot user friendly than what they have given us when I do NCNA. So I know I had mentioned I needed printouts, but I figured it out. I got it.
Well, I just picked up my printouts today. Thank you, Billy. And like I said in my email, I've been doing this for a number of years. And when I opened that portal for the first time, it's fear and overwhelming and sadness that I can't give everybody everything they want. So it's a whole gamut of emotions. So for folks that are new to this process, this go round, you're not alone if you're feeling those same things. We got the units of service and the supplemental aging funds reports out to y'all. In terms of funding levels, I think, excuse me, I lost my units of service. Here it is. So if we look at Zach, Zach, you're wonderful. And Billy, whoever put this up. So as you know, at this point, they should have spent approximately 58% of their budget, their allocated funds, I should say. And it looks like everybody's close, except for Land of Sky and this whole aid 3. Billy, do you have any insight on the level 3?
Well, at the last meeting, the committee agreed, Ryan asked to move the funding from level 3 to level 2, and the committee agreed to that.
Oh,
We don't serve level 3 except for the folks that were already on the contract.
Right.
okay. So this is
So we didn't, so that's why the money's moved. Is
so
Ryan on here?
no, he's not. He's not. So this is a function of the fact that the units of service paperwork hasn't been done, Zach.
I haven't received a budget yet, unless I missed it in my email. I haven't received a budget to make the adjustments in arms. And once it's adjusted in arms, then it'll reflect on the units of service report.
Okay. So
Yeah, and I asked for everyone that had like Ryan and Mountain Care, where y'all had awarded them an extra $27,500 in Meals on Wheels. You had awarded them an extra $13,078. Then I asked everyone for their 732 forms. So I've gotten Meals on Wheels, but I'll ask for the in-home aid and the mountain care again, 732.
Okay.
And that's why Zach hasn't gotten it yet. I asked, but yes. And for in-home aid and level 1 and level 2, I mean, they're pretty much at the 58%, but I know that we received an invoice from Premier after the ARMS deadline because they kept sending the wrong invoice to Ryan. So I wasn't able to enter those numbers in till after the ARMS deadline. So it will show up on the next month's report.
Okay. Well, that goes to show how bad my memory is from month to month. So I do really rely on these reports. So let's put the reports aside and let's chat a little bit about last week's provider meeting. I think I'm not sure. I think one or two folks did join, and it was kind of a last minute thing for me to do a PowerPoint because I hate death by PowerPoint. But I did have some basics, like if you use abbreviations, tell us what it is. And if you cut and paste from prior years, do us a favor and at least update the information in that cut and paste. Try to be concise. And then try to focus the applicants on using county data rather than just general national data, county or at least state data. And to kind of give us a better understanding of how you identified the need of the service. I don't know if there was much impact on their applications that came in on Friday since the presentation was on Wednesday, but they did give us some feedback. One thing was in our DEIA section, we asked if they have a document that shares their DEIA, mission or statement, and the website doesn't allow them to upload a document other than the budget. So that's a lessons learned for next year. Some of the questions I kind of felt like looking through them that the questions were redundant, but the folks pointed out that this is how they interpreted one versus the other. So this has been very helpful it was very helpful for me, and not this month or next month, but after we get all our allocations in, I'd like to look at the application and see where we can make improvements for next year. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind while you're looking through all and reviewing all of these applications. So Billy, do you want to put our lovely spreadsheet up, the spreadsheet tool? We got 27 applications. They requested $3.2 million when we only have 2.2 to allocate.
Susan, did you send me the updated one?
Yeah, did I not?
No, I don't see it in my email. If you send it to me, I'll
Put it up. Okay, give me a sec.
yeah.
It's always 3.2 million requested, it seems like. Seems like I've heard 3.2 every year I've done this.
Well, that
Honest-
goes to show that we have more demand than we have resources.
Always.
I'm curious, does that get communicated to the state at all or the county, the difference, like the what's usually requested and what we have? I mean, I don't know if that has any influence on a budget for the future.
To answer your question, I have not in the past ever done that. It is something that I want to do in the future. I know I have mentioned it to some folks here and to other presentations. So yes, that is another topic for us to kind of delve into once we get through the review. But yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So Billy, did that come through yet for you? There's no subject line.
Yeah.
Can I add just a comment that one of the things that strikes me as we approach this is I just think back over the years when I've done not just this, but other things that you have organizations like we have that do good things and they rely on this funding from year to year. And we know the demand for services for older Americans is increasing because there are more of us. And so what always strikes me and I struggle with is the fact that I'd love to somehow fund new programs, but the demand just to keep going with what we have is significant. And then there's always the question of, how do we evaluate? And it fits with what your comment to the folks in terms of trying to use local data, some of which is hard to come by. And I think part of my dread with this is thinking I'd really like to fund more, more things that are creative and might reach groups that are not being reached. But do you take that away from current providers? And that's a real dilemma. And it fits also with the business of maybe we need more resources because this population is growing so significantly.
Mm-hmm.
Related to that, we've got about the same amount of money, but 9 additional agencies.
Mm-hmm.
At what point, this is my third go round with doing this process. And the first time around, the first thing I did was a proportional allocation based on, we had X amount in requests. One agency is responsible for X percent, another for Y percent. And then I took the available funds and just did a proportional spread. But then I started to think, we can't fund everybody. Do we need to prioritize the types of services? Water, food, shelter, transportation, access to healthcare, over other things. And at some point, my concern is that with increased demand, increased need, static funding, at some point, we might have to take that kind of approach, particularly given that I don't know what the numbers are, but a related question is how dependent are these agencies on the funding they get from us, some more than others. But at some point, yeah, it's a little bit like lifeguarding. If you're going into the ocean to pull out a bunch of people and you can only pull out one and you have to choose between two, what they used to, when I was a girl anyway, the rule was you pulled out the stronger one, which is not everybody's immediate inclination. But at some point, are we going to have to say, okay, we have to prioritize food, housing, meal, in-home aids, transportation, MAHAC for healthcare, and deprioritize other things that are important, like socialization, like mental health. If I don't have food and I don't have water, all the mental health support in the world isn't going to help me if I starve to death, So that was just something that I've been chewing over the last few days.
I dealt with the same thing. I wrestled with this last year, that it was kind of like mercy and enhancements. It seemed like I had three things in my mind, but mercy, the basic needs, and then enhancing someone's lifestyle, through one of our grants and stuff, and realize that there's some things that are just basic. It's like Maslow's hierarchy, there's some basic things we have to cover or we can't get the other things. And I kind of came to that conclusion last year, the same thing.
At some point, I don't know if this is something appropriate for our committee, but at some point, should we get together with folks at the state level and explain to them, explain to whoever has the most of the decision-making control over how much money we can, then have to allocate. I don't know what the politics of this might be, but
Well, I also think about the growing aging population too. I mean, I think there's some numbers and some data to kind of extrapolate that we can get from our county, and describe that this is the state that we're at, and this is the amount of increase that we've received for these grant, and this is the need has changed by this percent or whatever, and this is the small percent of what the increase for the community has gotten. The other thing is, and I'm the newbie, the other thing I wonder about is, like you said, how many of these institutions or these providers are getting funds from other places. And so how do we, I mean, I've done one little, and it was a really nice application. I've done one application, evaluated one. So how do we determine like where else these providers are getting funds from? You know what I'm saying? So they may be the one that provides the water. Yeah, they provide the water, but they have access to 15 grants, whereas the mental health one only has access to us, Is that available? I mean, like, as I go through, am I going to see more like, oh, we get funds from this grant and this grant and this church? Do I see that?
It sounds like two questions. One, in terms of advocacy for more funding, I will let y'all know that I am a senior Tar Heel legislator. One of the priorities for senior Tar Heels last year and next week, I'm going to start the process for this upcoming legislative cycle. One of the priorities was to allocate more funding to the block grants. So that's one thing that's happening or is in process. The other thing is that the funding coming from the county, I mean, it's ever since I started, it's been $500,000. And I think originally there was a concern if we start asking for more, they'll take it away. So, yeah, I would like to explore approaching the county. I don't really know how to do that. And I want to also be aware that I want to advocate on behalf of all of senior services to seniors, not just one or another, like we talked about with our conflict of interest. So that's kind of the advocacy side. Now, the question, which I agree, and I think of Eileen when I hear your comment about do our applicants have more coming from other sources? And really the only thing we have is the budget page. So, I I'll be honest, I haven't focused on the budget pages, recently. But you can see the overall organizational budget, and you see the service budget versus the, expenses. So, I think we could all focus on the budget, and the budget page, we did change it last year to be more user-friendly for the providers. So again, as we go through our process this time, make notes to yourself on how we can improve the budget. Do we actually have a line item that says sources of other funding? I don't know.
My observation from having done this for several years now is that what we see is total amounts of money they bring in, but not necessarily where it comes from. But my impression is that a lot of them survive on grants from us and other foundations and organizations. And grant funding is never sustainable. Grants come and go, and you can't always predict that you're going to be funded by grants. So one of the things we need to do is to encourage these organizations to find sustainable sources of funding, and I don't know what that is. It's donations from individuals. It's events where they bring in money, a certain amount of money every year, but they need to be able to predict what kind of money they're going to have, and surviving on grants is not the way to do it.
Excellent. Suzanne, go on.
Yeah, many years ago, I sat on the board of what is essentially effectively a commune. It's a support community for people with intellectual disabilities. And their funding came from three different buckets. One was, things like Social Security, disability, and Medicaid, that kind of thing. That was about a third. Another third came from grants. Again, they vary. The final third came from a foundation that they had set up, and that foundation was essentially supported by basically a reliable group of very wealthy people who often had, children in the community, but they generally provided a backstop to this community's needs if there was a loss of a grant or something like that. The challenge, of course, is finding someone with means who has an interest in the particular, purpose of the group, the group that they're helping. It takes a lot of work to find them, but if you can find them and engage them, that can take off some of the stress that comes from the unpredictability of grants.
So Billy, do you have that spreadsheet that's going to go out to everybody? And if anybody, do we need to send a PDF? Because I'm not sure everybody has Excel.
I'm good with Excel.
Billy, what? I can't hear you.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm pulling it up.
So basically,
Can you see the screen?
No.
No?
Nope.
Okay. No. Okay.
Oh.
Here we go.
There we go. There we go. So what I did, and Billy proofed, thank you, Billy, is the spreadsheet goes through all of our applications. And you'll see the funding source in column D. And I put in the fiscal year 2024 allocations and then the requested amount. So if you scroll down, Billy, you'll see at the bottom where we have, there it is, very good, that we have the 3.2 versus the amount available to allocate of 2.2. So you'll see that the amount is over $1 million. So some of our folks that have applied, I mean, we go through this every year. Some people get 0. Most, if not all, don't get everything they want. So what we struggle with is your allocation when you have your recommendations, which is in column G. You want to make sure that that stays at 2.2. So Billy, you want to scroll through for me? Thank you. So you can see, and what happened last year is everybody, we all made our recommendations. And then when we looked at your recommendations, all of pretty much everyone's recommendation totaled up to over $2.2 million. So the goal with this spreadsheet tool is to allow you to easily see when you're reaching that target amount. Does that make sense with you guys?
Yeah.
Yes.
Suzanne, are you okay?
Yep, I'm good.
Okay. So and then some things I do want to point out. First off, Mountain Care Transportation, the line number 3, but number 1 for the applicants. Last year, they sent in 2 transportation applications. And the total of that amount plus what we gave them at the end of last session is the $92,205. This year, they only sent in 1 application. And that was for block grant. So the 79,200 is block grant funding, but I wanted folks to know that prior year they got a combined amount of the 92,205. Then the Buncombe County in-home aid program, between block grant and county funds, they got the 472. And now they're requesting 580. So I'll be real honest, I haven't looked at any of the applications other than to pull numbers. And you can see as you go through, for example, Land to Sky, the senior companion program, this is the first year they have requested block grant funds. And then continuing down, the double underline, yeah, there we go. There, the Blue Ridge Elder Adventure these are the ones that are funded from the $500,000 from the county. So last year, so yeah, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 new ones under block grant. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So even though at this point, the tool only does a total, keep in mind that the block grant, the county funds should only be $500,000 in terms of trying to allocate between block grant and county funds. Another point is mountain mobility, which is at the very top. Mountain mobility over, I want to say the last 3 or 4 years was allocated the 500,000. And it was, I want to say it was December of 2021 where we had the discussion about how they already have to have a contract or an application to the county, and why do they have to fill out another application for us? So that's at the time, a few years back, that's when we said the 500,000. But to Suzanne's point and Melissa's point, I mean, at what point does that maybe have to be reduced or impacted by the fact that there are other competing demands? I don't have the answer, but for this fiscal year, the commitment was made. So basically, it is what it is. The spreadsheet kind of summarizes what we have to deal with.
Quick question about mountain mobility. Is mountain mobility's transportation service restricted to people with disabilities and elders, or is it open to the general public as well? The question came up in a conversation about something else recently, and I confess I'm a little confused on this point.
And maybe Zach can clarify, but my understanding is that these funds, the block grant funds, do go to individuals over 60. However, yes, mountain mobility, I believe, does transport other populations. Zach, can you help me with this?
Yeah, so one of the qualifying questions that Charlie asks whenever signing someone up is, are they age 60 plus? And if they are 60 plus, then they're automatically put on the home and community care block grant funding side of things. Since transportation, there really isn't a lot of requirement or a lot of eligibility requirement for it. That's the most basic of a question that you can have for the application. You know, they do still fill out the necessary paperwork, the DOS 101, but as long as they're 60 plus, they do get that home and community care block grant funding.
And they allocate that between medical transport and general transport. Does that answer your question, Suzanne?
So does that mean that mountain mobility can provide transportation services that for non-sick, non-disabled, non-elderly people funded by other programs? Is that accurate?
I want to say yes. Zach is shaking his head. Is that correct?
Yes, so they have different contracts. So I'm sure they receive some DOT money for transportation. They also receive money from the department that I used to work in, which was Medicaid transportation. And that is to transport individuals with the appropriate designated Medicaid to and from doctor's appointments. So yes, there are other programs that contribute to the transportation.
So I'll ask if Billy could please send this out to everybody after we have completed our meeting today. we don't, let's see, it's February now. So we have our next meeting, and then our final budgets have to be prepared for the April meeting. What we typically do for the folks that are, this is their first time doing these, we all make our recommendations. And if possible, can you have them by next month's meeting? And we do a big, huge spreadsheet with everybody's allocation recommendations and come to like an average. And we kind of work from there in terms of, you know, talking next month about, you know, all of the issues we talked about just a few minutes ago about the hierarchy of need and what's more important, and where do they get funding from other providers. This is not an easy time for us. I have said that more than once.
It needs to be pointed out for those that are new that it's anonymous. We get that sheet that comes out that says, but it doesn't tell who allocated what. So you don't know, when you see the individual allocations, you don't know who that is.
Good point. Thank you, Greg.
And I'll also add that usually at first it's the evaluation and then it's the data collection portion. So if there is a question that's tickling the back of your brain about a certain provider, we can always reach out to them and ask them to clarify whatever is in their application.
Oh, excellent, Zach. Thank you so much for saying that. I had totally forgot. I think I put in my email to have people write down their questions. But yes, and if you the sooner you send them in, we can get them out. Billy, I think I'm going to put that on you. I'm a little overwhelmed with my other volunteer work right now. But if people have specific questions about the applications, please do share them with Billy, and we'll try to collect and consolidate and get answers that way.
I'd be happy to do that. So send all the questions to me and I'll get them to the providers.
So I have 427. Is there anything I'm forgetting? Anything that folks have questions about?
No questions, but a comment. Melissa and I are getting ready to schedule an HCCBG kind of the rundown. Essentially, it's that HCCBG 101 training that I've given. And if anybody is interested in a refresher, you're more than welcome to join us. Just email me and let me know, and we can all kind of figure out a date. I just gave it earlier today to Allison and her team. And I'm happy to give it again to anybody who may just want that history of home and community care block grant, where it comes from, what it's all for, et cetera, et cetera.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Zach. How long does that take you?
We did it in about 45 minutes and then left 15 for questions or so.
Okay, great, great. Well, any other comments, questions, concerns before we sign off?
Happy reading, everybody.
We're all in this boat together. Yes, we will have happy reading and difficult decisions. And I am always amazed at how thoughtful and insightful you all are, and I can't thank you enough for volunteering.
You're
So
welcome.
have a lovely evening, and we will get together in another month.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.